Hey everyone, it's Justine the Twilight Stamper, and welcome back to the 3 Cards 1 Stamp series for 2015 in July. I'm focusing on the Elegant Butterfly stamp from Clearly Besotted. I'm going to get it started by using a piece of watercolor cardstock, and this is Tim Holtz Distress Watercolor paper, and here you can see a preview of the stamp set here. It's a little bit of an older set from Clearly Besotted, but it's definitely one of my favorites to use, and I've used it quite often. So the way this series works, if you're new this month, is I make 3 cards using the exact same stamp set, no other stamps needed, to show you the versatility you can get out of just one stamp set. I've been doing this series since January, and there's lots to check out in the playlist. So I'm just going to lay down these 2 really pretty butterfly stamps. Now I want to make sure that I stamp them really dark in black ink, so I'm going to be using my Misty so I can stamp multiple times in the exact same spot. For this, I'm going to be using black archival ink from Ranger. The reason being because I'm going to watercolor that I need an ink that isn't going to smudge. So I inked these up quite a few times actually just so I could get a really good impression and make sure that those bodies are really solid, and I think that it worked out really well. I'm using rubber cement by Elmer's. This is a really cheap version to using something like fine liner. I believe I paid $3.29 or something for this bottle. You have to be careful because the stuff dries really quickly even inside the bottle, so you don't want to leave it exposed to the air for too long. I just grabbed a paint brush that I'm going to wash really well afterwards, and I'm just going over that and I'm going to let it dry. You just need a super thin layer. It took about a half an hour for it to dry. I'm going to use some of my watercolors here, a dark blue, a light blue, and I'm going to mix a red and blue together to hopefully make a purple. In the end, it didn't come out too purpley. It came out more of a, I don't know, cobalt blue, and I like the way that it turned out. Anyway, so I'm going to add some water to my watercolor paper and soak the background here, and I'm going to get started by using this sort of royal blue color, and then I'm going to mix the two, blue and red, to see what color comes out, and as you can see, it ended up becoming even darker blue than the top one. And then I went on with more of a medium blue. Between each layer, I'm going to have to dry my watercolor so that I can continue adding layers. Alright, I'm just going back in again to darken up some of those areas, and I soaked up some of those water petals with some paper towel as well, just to get that ombre look here. And I'm just going on and drying in between my layers, and I think that it's turning out quite well. To take off the rubber cement, you can actually just rub with your finger, or you can use a adhesive remover to do this. I used a boning folder as well. That worked for me also. The key is to make sure that it is dry before doing this, or it might take the paper with it. Other than that, I had no issues doing it, except for I rubbed a little bit of watercolor in as I was scraping it off because my watercolor wasn't completely dry. I cut down my watercolor piece here because I didn't want it to fill up the entire card, and I also it also leaked through the tape that I was using as masking, but I wasn't really planning on using that tape as masking anyway. I'm going to use my card base. It's 11 by 4¼ inches, scored at 5½ inches, and I'm going to glue my butterfly masterpiece here in the center. Well, it's far from a masterpiece, but you know, it's my masterpiece. And I'm going to use Tombow Mono Glue. I like to use a really strong adhesive when attaching watercolor because usually it has warped at this point, and I usually like to shove it between like a big thick dictionary because that's pretty much all you need thick dictionaries for these days anyway, since everything's on your phone. And I like to let it sit there for the rest of the day so that the watercolor doesn't end up warping the card base. I'm going to be stamping the sentiment Heartfelt Thanks in VersaFine Black Onyx ink. This is my absolute favorite ink for stamping sentiments. If you don't have it, you need it because, I mean, it just stamps so clear and crisp. It's so amazing. I love it. And I'm going to stamp that using my Fisker stamp press in the bottom right-hand corner. And lastly, I just wanted to add a couple of embellishments to this. I'm using White Lily sequins from Doodlebug, and I'm using my Pick Me Up here to surgically attach them to my card. I just added a little bit onto the cap of the Doodlebug container there, a little bit of glue, and I'm just sticking those onto my card. Just 3 of them was fine. So that's the end of today's card tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Giving away a stamp set from Clearly Besotted called Love Blossoms. You have several ways to enter. One is to leave a comment here on the video, and then just click on my blog either in the corner or in the description to see all the other ways you can win it. And I look forward to choosing a winner. It will be announced on Sunday. July 12th, and I hope you'll enter to win because I can't wait to give it away. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on Wednesday for day 2.